Today is July 28th, 2024, and welcome to the 399th episode of the So Video Games podcast. Here on this show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I am the one-man host of this show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10 while also offering full accessibility information on every review we publish. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome. Glad you're here. As usual, going to kick things off with housekeeping, where I discuss tidbits, news items, industry happenings, and basically anything randomly game adjacent that's caught my eye in the last 7 days. All right, taking a quick look at the agenda here. We're going to start it off with Helldivers 2. One of the games I'm playing the most this year, although there's ups and downs. It's been kind of a wild ride with Helldivers 2. But they are getting ready to release a big update. They've been releasing little dribs and drabs of content here and there. Some new, small little, battle passes, I guess you want to call them, where you can, unlock some new gear, usually guns and some skins. I mean, it's usually not anything super impressive. There hasn't been more than a couple of really great items that have come out lately. And in fact, if you missed most of the battle passes, you wouldn't really be missing a whole lot. But this is supposed to be the next big step. They're calling it the Escalation of Freedom update, and it's going to have a bunch of new enemies, especially one that's kind of notable from the original Helldivers game. It's a big bug that has these tentacles on the front of its face, and what it does is it buries its head in the sand, and then those tentacles go out underneath the sand and kind of trap you. They chase you down, and they kind of create a wall that you can't get around. So it's kind of like a big enemy, but it's also like a barrier in addition to just being a big guy you got to shoot. There's also going to be some weapons, of course, new mission types. They're going to redo some of the biomes, all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. But I got to say, the things that I really want the most from Helldivers 2 have not been announced yet, which is kind of frustrating to me. Number one, I really am beyond ready for vehicles to hit the game. In the original Helldivers, you had at least a couple, I want to say at least 2 or 3, if not more, vehicles that you could have. There was a motorcycle that you had a little sidecar on. There was an APC where one person drove, and then the other 3 people on your team manned the guns, and that was really cool. Some of these areas are just large, and they're not mega large, but sometimes when you've got an objective on one side of the map and you need to get to the complete opposite side, it just sucks to run the whole time. And with all of the technology available in this futuristic Helldivers world, you would think they would get a little dune buggy or whatever. And it's interesting because in the game itself, they have placed different wrecked vehicles. So you can see that there are models in the game, but they haven't put them out yet. I've heard stories of the developers randomly jumping into people's games and letting them test out the vehicle for one match. I believe there's a couple of videos of that on YouTube. So I know they're real. I'm sure they're coming because they did it before. It makes sense to have them in the game, but I'm beyond ready to have a vehicle. I just really need to get from point A to point B a little bit faster. So hopefully that's coming. They did not announce that yet. And the other thing that I really, really want is that when you play Helldivers, you have to collect these samples that are scattered all over the map. And what you do with those samples is you use those to unlock other things that you need, to get upgrades for your ship and stuff. And you can usually just walk and find them and spot them. But, there's a bunch. For example, in every map, there'll be 50 samples. And by the time you finish the mission and you're ready to bounce, you'll have 15 or 20 if you're lucky. So that means you're leaving behind 20 or 30 samples every time because you're not finding them. I mean, it's kind of tough to find them. They're very small and the maps are large. And in the original Helldivers, there was a backpack that you could have that had no offensive capability whatsoever, which was a big problem until you realized what it did was it was a radar to help you find samples. And so if one person on your team equipped the backpack, it had a little radar dish on it or whatever, you would ping the samples and you could just guide your team. Bam, 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 just collect the whole thing and scoop them all up from the map, and it would really help you advance faster. So I don't know if they're not bringing it back intentionally to make sure that players grind longer, because I bet people with that backpack could really clean up quickly and just get all the goodies quickly. But I need it, man. I'm so tired of just having to scrounge and finishing a tough mission and only coming away with 5 samples when I know there's 45 still left on the map. I just can't find them. And I've never been one for blind searching. So hopefully they'll announce the sample backpack radar thing. Hopefully they'll announce a vehicle. Please, for God's sakes, I need a friggin' vehicle. But regardless, I'm still playing basically every day just about, and slowly leveling up and, unlocking things here and there. It's still good, kind of going up through ups and downs. There's been lots of bugs lately. They kind of go through their phases where it gets really buggy sometimes and it gets better for a while, then it gets buggy again. We're kind of in a buggy phase right now. But whatever. Still playing and looking forward to the new update. So Escalation of Freedom coming, I want to say it's August 6th. So only about a week or so away by the time you're finally listening to this. Next up, LCB Studios, one of my personal new favorite studios in the last couple of years. I love these folks and everything they do. Literally every game they put out has been a banger and exactly up my alley. They just announced their latest, Pixel Pulp. It's kind of like a visual novel, small scale, really amazing stylized pixel art. They usually have a card game or two tucked away in there as bonus content as well. They all tell these kind of cryptid, sci-fi, Area 51 kind of spooky tales. They've all been great, and they're all in the same interconnected universe. So if you played one, you'll see connections to the other games. Their newest one is called Grizzly Man, where you are in another visual novel, and the Grizzly Man is a serial killer, a big guy dressed up in the skin of a grizzly bear. That's really all we know, but they put out some really flashy visual images. Look them up online, LCB Studios. You can see them on Twitter or whatever. I'm very excited for this one. Their other games, Bonson Knights, Mothman 1966, and Varney the Vampire, again, have all been great. They all connect. This one, I would assume, is going to be the same, probably in the same connected universe. So quite excited for this one. Keep an eye out for Grizzly Man. I think you can wishlist it now. I'll probably wait for it to get to Xbox because that's where I have all the other ones. But good stuff. Cannot wait for that one. Looking at YouTube for a second, I saw somebody on Twitter mention that there was a modder. I believe it was a Japanese modder, although it could be mistaken. But he or she or they had taken Wolf, the main character from Sekiro, FromSoft's ninja counter parry happy ninja game. Exceedingly difficult, quite a difficult game. That one, they had taken Wolf, the main character, and had put him in a mod where he could fight Millennia from Elden Ring. And so Millennia is well known as one of From's... I mean, is she one of the most difficult? I think she probably is, although they have been some real bastards in the past. And I don't know that I would say she is like the hardest out of everything they've ever done. Probably not. I mean, maybe like top 5. Because I think they've put out some really cheap shit bullshit bosses before that have just been infuriating. But anyway, Millennia is the most recent kind of frustrating fight du jour. And so you can see on YouTube, this person had clipped in Millennia, and then they put in Wolf, and the two of them go at it. And it's a pretty amazing fight. You know, I mean, number one, wow, what coding skills to be able to take these two disparate elements and like mash them together in a way that works. But also when you see these things together, it's neat because Millennia is really fast and cheap, and she moves around. She has a lot of hits. And Wolf is really fast also, and he can parry. I mean, if you got the reflexes for it, he can parry like a motherfucker. And so seeing Wolf parry all of Millennia's strikes and then dodge out of the way and then do some of his ninja magic stuff to like avoid some of her attacks was just fucking phenomenal. I mean, how fucking cool was that? I really appreciated that. I thought it was quite enjoyable. The whole clip is only like 3 minutes long. And if memory serves, I think the guy even gets like a perfect on her, like parries everything and, you know, does his shadow magic and dashes her on the back and stabs her and stuff. And she goes down, you know, looking like a chump, although we all know if you've played Elden Ring how difficult she can be. So very cool video. Definitely worth the 3 minutes of your lifespan that might be invested in watching this. Track it down. All you got to do is just go to YouTube and just type in Sekiro plus Millennia or something like that, and it comes up. I mean, it got like 1 million views in like the very first day or something like that. So it'll come up in the search results. No worries. Moving away from games for just a second, although I guess tangentially because there has been the involvement in games, but Peter Cullen, better known to people around the world as the voice of Optimus Prime for the last like 40 plus years, the iconic, instantly recognizable, you know, super heroic voice of Optimus Prime. Peter Cullen, the voice actor. Today is his birthday. He was born July 28th, 1941. And thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Cullen, for having your little boy, because he has done a great job voicing Optimus Prime. You know, when I was growing up, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad, and I would often think of Optimus Prime as one of my surrogate fathers. So having that voice around be like heroic and strong, but also gentle and full of emotion was just something I needed when I was a little tyke. And so I'm glad that was there for me. And it's amazing that he's been doing the voice of this character for like so many years. Incredible. Happy birthday, Mr. Cullen. I know you are a listener of the show, or at least I hope you are. So happy birthday. And kind of tangentially related to that, San Diego Comic-Con. God, is it still going? I'm not sure if it's still going, but it was in full swing a couple of days ago. And they do announce some game stuff there, but mostly it's about comics, toys, and movies, and maybe a lesser degree of games. But just a tangent for a second, talking about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which is kind of a contemporary cartoon of Transformers, which is back in the 80s. So I guess there's like a 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon going on here. But regardless, as the Masters of the Universe fan that I am, they had loads of announcements of new toys coming out, which is really exciting because a couple of years ago, there was a guy that used to work for Mattel who was being really bitter, and I don't know what his problem was, but he was coming out and saying that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe as an IP, as a toy line, was dead in the water. It had no future. He was just gloom and doom, which really bummed me out, right? Because I've been a fan for 40 years, and to see these toys resurface after 40 years with a couple of new lines was so exciting. Just to be able to like get back into something I've loved for all these decades and still have new property, new toys to buy was just a thrill. Really a special thrill. And so to hear this guy be so negative and gloom and doom was just a real bummer. But he couldn't have been more wrong. Masters of the Universe is going like full bore, really strong. They had tons of announcements at San Diego Comic-Con. They talked about the new She-Ra line, which they're going to be introducing out. She-Ra is the sister of He-Man, if you know that. And there was a whole sister cartoon, etc., spinoffs. They showed the Snake Lair playset, kind of analogous to like a Castle Grayskull, but for the Snake Men. We all voted on it in a fan poll. I believe it was last summer. Mattel asked which of like 6 things we wanted to get ready for the next Kickstarter thing they were going to do. The first thing they did was Eternia, which got greenlit like pretty quickly. And then the next thing we all voted for was the Snake Lair, which is a brand new playset we've never had before. So they showed us the first prototype of that. Looks fucking amazing. So excited for that. There's a brand new Panther coming out, which is Skeletor's purple cat, which is, he's got like all sorts of armor on. It looks like a real badass. And the most interesting and the most surprising thing was, if you haven't been following He-Man or even Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lately, you may not know, but He-Man and Turtles did a crossover. I believe it was started last year. So Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mashed their 2 universes up together. And it wasn't just like one of those cheapy cash in, oh, we just, designed these characters together and kind of one off and, moved on with their lives. No, they integrated it into the lore. Like they wrote a bunch of comics explaining how it worked. They had all these storylines that like have these two groups of characters meeting each other. So it really became like an actual part of the He-Man canon, which was amazing. That's really what I needed to kind of get in as a fan. So it's been a huge success. I got to be honest, I was not on board at first because I'm not, Turtles is fine, but it's not like my jam. And I like He-Man a lot. And I'm like, well, I don't know what Turtles is going to bring to this. It just seems kind of weird and maybe just like a cash grab of some kind. But no, it's actually been pretty dope. They've come out with some really cool characters. The comics they've put out have been some of the best they've ever done. I think the designs are really strong. And so I really have become a convert. And the big reveal this year, not a lot of details, but just a reveal that it exists, is they're planning to do a crossover of He-Man and Thundercats, which like literally nobody saw coming. Nobody was expecting this. There were no pictures of figures or no explanation of how it's going to work. But I guess He-Man's entering his multiverse era. And so I guess we can look forward to lots of crossovers. But if it's even half as good as the Turtles crossover has been, it's going to be another fantastic line of figures to collect. And as an action figure collector, that just makes me so happy. So nothing specifically to do with games, although hopefully we'll get a video game out of it. But I just wanted to mention that because San Diego Comic-Con, comics, movies, toys, it's all kind of in the same sort of vague basket. And I bet if you listen to this podcast, you probably have dipped a toe into one of those other fields at least. So there you go. That's all I have for housekeeping this week. Nothing else really to discuss. No, that's it. Now, before I get to the main portion of the show, just want to quickly remind people you can help support this very podcast that you're listening to right now in real time by going to patreon.com/the So Videogames podcast. Every little bit helps, even $1 with the cost of hosting and such, which is something that I got to pay out of pocket every month. So anything you could chip in would be fantastic. And of course, a huge thanks to all of our Patreon supporters who are already putting their money where their ears is. Okay. Also, there is a So Videogames Discord, which any listener is welcome to join, free of charge. If you want to join up and continue the conversation after the show is over, just shoot me an email and I will send you all the details. Charge you literally nothing whatsoever to join. You are just welcome as my way of saying thank you for being a listener. All right, let's get to the main portion of the show here. As you all know, if you're a regular listener, or if you don't know, If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. Well, how I usually start off the main portion here is by doing some circle backs where I talk about things I've covered on previous episodes in greater detail, but I'm not going to get into that same level of detail now. I'll just quickly refer you to the archive over at gamecritics.com. You can check the episode descriptions, find whatever game you're looking for. But right now, all I'm going to do is just, remind people I'm still playing certain things. I want to check back in. Are they still good? Did they get bad? Did I quit? Did I roll credits, etc., etc.? So the first circle back I want to do is for Dungeons of Hinterberg, which I covered in great detail on the last episode. It was basically just like a joy explosion. I thought that game on the last episode was fantastic. It could do no wrong. Loved all the decisions. I loved the thinking, the concept, the quality of life. This is one where it's a third-person action adventure where you are a woman who is a lawyer in the real world, and it turns out that there's a small town in Austria, I believe it's Austria, that just sprouts magical dungeons out of the blue, and you don't know what they're there for or what they're about, but it becomes this major tourist destination, and people from all over the world fly there to become dungeon heroes over a weekend or something. And so your main character is this lawyer. She's tired of her life. She wants some adventure. She comes to the town full of dungeons and starts dungeoneering. It's great, and I wanted to just check in really quickly and say it's still great. Still playing it. It's just getting better and better. More options open up. I've had some really surprising story beats too. It seems like the story is going to be kind of a throwaway when you first start the game, or not a throwaway. I don't mean that to sound disrespectful, but just you think it's going to be just like a whatever, just something to keep the action going. But there have been some pretty interesting twists and turns in the story, some interesting character notes. And I actually had one conversation with an NPC yesterday that really made me pause, and I was like, dude, what's going on here? I'm not going to spoil anything, but it really caught me by surprise, and pleasantly surprised, a little bit scared maybe, but it was good. It was really nice to find this little unexpected depth. And I don't want to say it's unnecessary, because the game would be fantastic even without the story, but it was just so welcome to see that every aspect of the experience has been taken care of. Combat's good. World design is good. Graphics are good. Concept is good. Dialogue is good. Story is good. I mean, they've really just dotted all the T's and crossed the I's, if you know what I mean. And I couldn't be more pleased with it. This is absolutely going to be one of my 10 best games of the year. There's no way it's going to get knocked out of the top 10. I'm just having a blast with it. So if you haven't tried Dungeons of Hinterberg yet, please give it a shot. I'm playing it on Game Pass, so I got it for quote unquote free. Although you do pay for the subscription. But it's definitely worth a shot. If you've got Game Pass, you're losing nothing by checking it out, and I bet you'll be pleasantly surprised. It is actually way better than I ever expected, and it was just one of those dark horses where you didn't hear much about it beforehand. And then all of a sudden it's here, and it's amazing. It just came out of nowhere, and it's fucking rad. So Dungeons of Hinterberg, super fucking good. I love it. I'm definitely going to beat this game. I'm about a little bit more than halfway right now. Kind of taking my time, enjoying it, taking in the sights and stuff. It's just the fucking best. Other circle back. I talked a couple episodes ago about Bomber Crew, which was the systems-driven, I don't know if I want to call it a simulation, but kind of like a simulation where you have a crew of people on a World War II era bomber. The main game takes place in England and around that area, and you're flying with the Royal Air Force. But they put out a DLC, which I had gotten to a while ago because I had beaten the main campaign a while ago. I love Bomber Crew. It's one of my favorite of these games, and I don't even know what to call it. Simulation, or kind of like a strategy simulation, or all you're really doing is managing your crew inside the bomber as you go on these missions. But there's a lot to it. You're kind of navigating where you're going. You're trying to avoid hazards and flak. You're watching out for enemy fighters. You've got teammates that have to man the guns. You have to reload the guns. You have to fix any repairs if something goes wrong. You have to put out fires in your engine if your engine, there's a million little things where you've got to manage your crew. And I don't know that I'm usually down for these, but it's so streamlined and so balanced, and everything just it keeps you at just the right level of busy where you're doing something all the time, and there's always some element of danger, but you're not ever really super overwhelmed. And so I think it's just really, really well done. I finished the main campaign a while ago. I came back to it because I just really wanted to play some more of it. It's just a wonderful experience. And I had forgotten that I had never finished the DLC. The DLC puts you in the shoes of the United States Air Force. So you leave England behind, you go over to America somewhere. I'm not sure where they are exactly. But you have a bigger plane that has more slots, a couple more guns, and a new station in it. So it's a little bit more complicated. And they really increase the difficulty of the opposition you'll face. You face a lot more fighters, a lot more aces, a lot more, just like in general, more of everything. And the danger level goes up a lot. I actually died a couple times. And pro tip, if you're playing this game kind of takes a roguelike approach where if you lose your ship or if you lose any of your crew members, they're dead like for reals. And that sucks ass. It's really hard to come back from a devastating wipe like that. It just takes forever. And I think that was really the one mistake this team made, was just not letting you like save before a mission in case something goes catastrophically wrong. I mean, I guess they want you to sally forth and just act like you're in a real war and have to suck it up if you take a heavy loss. But real talk, that just takes too much time, and it's not a good feeling to like lose the plane that you've like invested all your upgrades in and lose your best gunner and lose your best pilot. That's it's too much. It's too punishing. It's too much. So pro tip, if you're in the middle of a mission and things start going south, you're just taking too much damage, you're not going to make it back to base, you're losing too many guys, you can't hang, just close the game. Don't save the game, don't go back to desktop or whatever, don't go back to the home screen. Just like shut off. I play on the Switch, so I just like close the game specifically because it doesn't save until you get back to base. So if you're in the middle of a mission, things get fucked up, you're going to lose, it sucks, you don't want to lose all that progress, just close the game and it'll like revert you back to before you start the mission and you get a second chance. I am not ashamed to say that I do that because I did get team wiped once and it almost made me quit the game because I lost so much, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that again. It's too punitive. So I love this game. I'm doing my best to beat the DLC. I strongly recommend it if you like the idea of piloting a crew inside a bomber in these small scale missions. It's just a really unique experience. I can't really think of many games like it. So strongest recommendation if you like systems driven games, but don't accept that punishment of being team wiped. And the American DLC is a lot harder than the main campaign. So there you go. And I think that's all I've got for Circleback. So from this point forward, going to be talking about brand new games covering for this week. Here we go. All right, first up is a demo that just dropped this week. I played it on PlayStation 5. I believe it's also on PC. I'm not sure about Xbox. It's called Deathbound. This is a Souls-like with a twist. The concept here is that it is a single-player party-based Souls-like. I believe that's the terminology from the developer. And I got to say, I love the concept. Well, it plays in general like a Souls-like. Third person, behind-the-back action, stamina, light heavy attack, etc., etc. So like, the basic bones of the Souls-like are here. If you've played a Souls-like, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have played at least one, then you kind of know what to expect. But the twist is that you have in the demo anyway, 4 different characters to choose from, but you can switch through them on the fly at any time. So how does this work? Well, you start off with a basic... Oh, I should say really quickly, the story that they give you is kind of interesting too. It seems like a post-apocalyptic, like humanity is kind of clawing back from some kind of devastation. So it feels kind of like medieval in tone, but like you can see ruined buildings, remnants of technology. I believe they talk about cloning or something like that. So it seems like kind of a weird mix of like, we used to have technology, then we bombed the fuck out of ourselves into the Stone Age, and now we're kind of clawing back, but now there's magic too. So it's a really weird kind of jumble. I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, so how this starts off is you begin with like a basic sword and shield guy, like your standard guy, and he's mapped to, I forget, one of the buttons or something. And then you just, parry windows, like okay, not perfect, it's all right. It could be a little wider. But you just kind of do some action there. But then you can switch at any time. I believe one of the other guys you have is a capoeira artist. He's got like braids. He does like a lot of fancy kicks. And so you can just switch anytime you want to. And his body will transform into the capoeira guy. And then you can transform into kind of a toxic wizard guy. He's got like a weird technological eyepiece. And then he summons puddles of acid and does like acid shots. And then the other person was a spear user, I believe. Yeah, spear. And so you could just flip between any of them as the situation calls for, which is a cool idea because it almost feels in a way like you've just got 4 different like loadouts, right? Like your first one is like your sword and board. Then you've got the magic user when you need to go ranged for a little bit. And then if you want to get up and close and personal, you can switch over to the guy doing the kicks. And then if you need to keep somebody at range, you can switch over to the spear person. It was really cool. I like that concept very much. It was also fully integrated into the whole gameplay because when you take damage with somebody, let's say, for example, you take damage with the sword guy, and then you switch to the spear lady, while the sword guy is inactive, he gets healed based on how much damage she does when she's active. So for everybody that's inactive, the person who is active will be healing all of them. So rather than an Estus flask, although you do have healing items, rather than just a basic Estus flask, you can actually switch between them as a way of kind of keeping everybody healed if you judiciously, like, you know, rotate through, which is a cool idea. There was also an item, consumable item. I think it was called like, I don't know, called like the scales or balance or equalizer. I think it was called equalizer, something like that, where like if you had one guy that was really low on health, but the other three were higher, if you use the equalizer, it took the extra health and divided it amongst everybody. So everybody all of a sudden had the exact same amount of health. So that's like a good kind of, I don't know, quick boost if you need it. But it seems like it's going to really focus on rewarding careful play, judicious play of switching back and forth between the characters, which is great. Really excited to see if there's more characters. It would be great if there was more than just 4. Like if you could pick and choose from like 12, like pick your top 4 that you really liked the best, that you gelled the best with. That would be wonderful. And the other, so I want to say this is a great concept. Brief impressions otherwise from the demo is that I did think it was real rough. Not real rough, but it felt rough, where some of the collision felt a little off. The graphics were a little bit lower quality than I would care for. Some of the layouts and stuff felt a little bit rough, but overall, I mean, it totally felt fine. It totally felt like one of those really cool, like B tier titles where you're not expecting the AAA sheen and polish, but it's got a cool concept, cool new switching mechanic that hasn't really been done in a Souls game before. So that stuff will override low production value for me easily. Like any day of the week, I would take an interesting rough game over a super polished boring game any day, like every single time. So that, and I want to say really quickly, this does kind of remind me of Mortal Shell, but I think this one does Mortal Shell 1 better. If you recall, Mortal Shell was a pretty difficult Souls-like that came out maybe 2-3 years ago, whatever. And the concept when they sold it was that you had several different bodies that you could switch between. And I thought it was going to play exactly like the way that Deathbound plays, but no, it didn't. In Mortal Shell, you had to basically just pick one, and you eventually like unlocked, I think, 4, but you couldn't switch between them at will. You had to go back to the base and switch if you wanted to. And it didn't really have any big objective bonus to it. It was like, you just kind of found the one that you liked the most and stuck with it. So it kind of negated the whole concept of being a spirit that switched between bodies. There just wasn't really any benefit to switching because you would upgrade one, the other ones wouldn't have the same upgrade, or like one would have really good defense, the other guys would be really weak on defense, and it just didn't come together. Like I played it, I finished it, I thought it was okay, but that was only after choosing one particular body and sticking with it. So the whole concept of body switching went out the window for me. It just did not work. Or at least it didn't work even remotely the way that I wanted it to or thought that it should. But Deathbound fixes that. This is exactly what I thought Mortal Shell was going for, and they've done it now. So you've got not just one character, you've got 4 characters at any given time, and the ability to switch between them is pretty neat. I do also want to give props because, like other games where you switch characters, they do the switch combo thing. And what that is like if you hit somebody with one character, in the middle of that attack, you hit the switch button and switch to somebody else. This comes up all the time. I've seen this mechanic so fucking many times. Honestly, I hate it. I think it's a dumb idea because it usually requires really fast reflexes and is kind of a specific use case scenario. And I just don't enjoy that whole concept. But I will say, giving respect where respect is due, they did make it super easy to do it here. So like the timing of it is really flexible, really squishy in a good way. So like as long as you hit somebody and then just like hit that switch button, you don't have to have lightning reflexes. You will do the combo and it works. Works better here than I've ever seen it work in any other game ever. And maybe that's down to me having slower reflexes or whatever, so I fully admit that. But I appreciated that they did go for this, which generally annoys me. But it does work, so I didn't find it to be annoying, and I really was happy that I could do it, on command or whatever. So props to that for making it work, Deathbound. Appreciate it. The only real downside, I think, is that they have this concept called heat in the game, where it's not exactly like stamina. It's just like the more you attack, your heat meter rises, and some people it's good and some people it's not so good. When you're doing I'm pretty sure it's the capoeira guy, the higher heat he has, the stronger his attacks are, if I remember that correctly. So it basically just means like they want you to combo with him as much as possible so that you're doing max, damage the more you use him. That's fine. That's totally no problem at all. But the wizard guy, when he has heat, when his heat gets to the max, he explodes and does damage to himself, and it does damage to like enemies too, But basically, you got to really watch it, because the first time I let the heat get out of control and I exploded, it almost basically killed him. And if any one of your characters dies, then all of you die. So it's not like you can just like run through them on a suicide run, kill 3 guys and still win. Like, you've got to keep them all alive. So I did not know if, I mean, maybe there's items that give you a greater heat tolerance for that guy. It seemed like you could do maybe like 1 or 2 little acid attacks, and then he was like maxed out. And if I didn't want to die, I had to switch out. I felt like that was maybe not quite where I would like it to be. Or maybe they just realized that doing ranged magic attacks is kind of OP, and so they don't want you to use them very much. Very possible as well. So we'll see. But overall, this is definitely one I'm going to check into. I love the concept, despite the roughness of the, the various aspects of production. I think the concept is great. Very excited for that. And I really hope there's like a variety of people, so I can make my own like dream team. That would be great. So Deathbound, believe the demo is still available. I played it on PS5. It's also on PC. I bet it's on Xbox. I wouldn't be surprised. Check that one out if anything I've said sounds interesting to you. And any Souls-like fans should definitely check this one out as well. I don't think we've seen this concept ever as fully developed as it is here, which is great to see. So excited to see this one. Once again, Deathbound. Okay, next game I'm talking about is called Arranger. Before I forget, I should say up front that everything I'm talking about on the show today, looking at the agenda, yes, everything on the agenda I was sent a code for, except for Bomber Crew, which I paid for myself. Deathbound is a demo, and I'm going to be talking about Flintlock later on. That's on Game Pass. So the Game Pass game's obviously on Game Pass, but everything else I was sent a code for, so just full disclosure, in full compliance with the FCC regulations. So there you go. Arranger, playing it on Switch, sent a code from the developer/publisher. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting one. 2D, puzzly based, like kind of hand-drawn graphics, where you play a girl in a town. It's a weird starting point. She has like too much stuff. She needs to clean her stuff out. She needs to find a place for her stuff. And so you got to walk around the town and find somebody to take your stuff, because you are leaving, and you got to just, I don't know, your mom and dad don't want it in your house anymore. That doesn't really have anything to do with the game. It was a funny place to start. But basically, the whole world is divided into squares. And when you walk, it's almost like you don't walk. It's almost like you're moving the entire world around you. And if the whole world is divided into a grid, you're always standing on one square. So let's say that you move up. It looks like you're moving the world like down. So like it almost looks like you stay in place, and you rotate the land underneath you, or you move the land underneath you. So it looks like your person is staying there, but the whole world is shifting around you. If you, the grid that you're on, the column you're in goes up and down. The row you're in goes left and right, to talk about spreadsheet terms, in case if you use spreadsheets. It's a weird visual effect, and it really kind of confused me for a minute when I first started the game. It looks very unusual. So, but neat though. It's kind of a cool effect. And the game does kind of lean into that a little bit. I think the most common example to show that this concept does not just apply to your character, but applies to the whole world, is that like in the first 5 minutes of the game, you see somebody on a ladder, and when you quote unquote walk to them, you actually like move the world. And so the world underneath the ladder moves, and it topples the ladder over. So it shows that you're moving the whole world around you, not just that it looks like you're doing that. So that lady falls, and she's mad that you knocked her off her ladder. And there's also this neat effect where it's like a wraparound effect, where if you walk all the way, for example, to the left of an area, and there's nothing further, but you keep going, you will wrap around and appear on the right side of where you're at. So like if you imagine like a grid, like a 9x9 grid, if you walk all the way to the left of the grid, and there's nothing out there but space, and keep going, you will wrap around and appear on the right side of the grid. Just like way back in the day, if you ever played like Pac-Man or a lot of those old arcade games, where you would just like go left off screen, and then you would appear on the right of the screen, like the wraparound effect. So you do that as well. So it looks really neat, a very cool visual effect. And then the game gives you all sorts of puzzles where you're trying to figure out how to manipulate the world by moving rows and moving columns to get where you need to go. So for example, like you need to go find somebody in the village, and you got to walk over there, but you're not walking, you're kind of moving the whole world. And there's maybe trees in the way or rocks or something. And so you've got to like navigate those rows and columns to shift those things out of your way, or rearrange them out of your way in order to get where you're going. It's pretty cool at first, but it does ramp up pretty quickly. And full disclosure, if you're a fan of the show, you probably know I do not have the best puzzle brain. So I want to just really putting that on Front Street right now. I'm not like a puzzle expert. I'm not like one of those people that likes to rack their brain on tough, teasers. I'm more of like an action kind of guy, and I do like a little bit of light puzzling, but nothing like super intense, right? And so I feel like maybe this is maybe 2 degrees past my comfort zone, because I got a fair distance in, but then after a while I just got kind of tired of trying to figure out, okay, well, if I need to move this stump 2 blocks up and then 2 blocks to the left, and then if I wrap around to the other side and then I get down to the thing, and it's very neat, but I just honestly, I mean, like, real talk, and no offense to anybody here, I just found it kind of irritating after a while, because I don't think I get much enjoyment out of the main core of this game, and the core of the game is rotating the world around to solve puzzles, and I'm sure that's really fun to some people. To me, it was just like really irritating. I found like I didn't get a lot of joy out of that. So I don't think this game is for me, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. I bet a lot of people really enjoy this one. I think it's super cute. It's a cool concept that I haven't really seen a lot done with. And I think that it's, if you have that kind of brain, I bet you would really like trying to puzzle your way through like these various areas, like taking into account like the wraparound, taking into account moving rows and columns. I can't say that I've ever navigated through a game quite like this before, so it's definitely unique in that way, and that's worth something. Anything unique these days is worth something. But for me personally, and with all due respect to the developers, this just didn't click with me. It was it confused me. My simple brain was confused too easily, and I got stuck and frustrated after a while, and I just didn't really feel the kind of energy that I feel when I push through a challenge. Like, for me, when I'm fighting like a Dark Souls boss or something, and I know that I can do it, but it's really tough and I got to practice, that kind of drives me, and I push through, and I dig deep, and I find the resources, and I make it. This kind of just felt like it made me want to give up, and so it didn't click with me in that same way. So not for me, not a fit, but it's still a good game, and I think a lot of people out there would really enjoy it. So just want to be clear about that. That is Arranger. Played it on the Switch. Again, was sent a code. Thank you very much. And if you like puzzlers on the Switch, I think this one is definitely worth looking into. All right, there's that. Okay, this next one is a trip. It is a trip. It's called TimeMelters, one word, and I I don't even know what to even do with this. But first, let me say that if you are old enough to have been playing games in the PS1 and specifically the PS2 era, this game will communicate to you on a whole other level. Because quick history lesson, back in the day when you played some PS2, those were some wild and woolly times. We were still in the era where people were experimenting with genres. Things hadn't been as clearly defined and locked down as they are now. And you could very often buy a game and just not even know what it was going to be. Like, you could see the pictures and you're like, what is this? I don't know. What kind of game is this? What kind of gameplay can I expect? What is the formula here? And like, you just wouldn't fucking know. So there were many times you'd pick up a game and just have no clue what you were in for. And that was like a real Wild West kind of experience where anything went. Like, whatever the developers could cook up, they would just stick on a disc and send it out there. And you could come up with all sorts of winners. Like, I think there was like Mr. Mosquito and Irritating Stick and any of those RPGs. There was like that one, I forget what it's called, but like you could draw shapes and it would animate them. And you had to create creatures that could get through these different puzzles, which I think would be fucking incredible with today's technology. Like, doing that with the PS2 back then was bananas, but doing it now would be just amazing. You could just get all sorts of weird stuff. Any kind of like racing games, but people were like running instead of having cars, and, just anything, just really bizarre shit. And I loved it. I loved it because I like indie games, I like experimental games, I like different games, I like unique games. I mean, the traditional genres are fine, but I like new and different and interesting. And that was just a really rich time to be a gamer if you were into that, because you just never knew. There was no limits to what might come out. There was no limit to the surprise. And so TimeMelters feels to me very much like a throwback to that same experimental era where you're trying something new when you're making this game. You don't know if it's going to work. You've got a concept in your head. You're going to get it out there. Maybe it's going to connect with players. Maybe it's not. But it's just a weird thing, right? And I kind of love that. So TimeMelters, I had no idea what to expect when I saw it. But again, I got sent a code from the publisher/developer. Thank you very much. And I struggle to even describe this game. I will say props for having a campaign. I wasn't sure that it had a campaign. I thought that perhaps it was going to be just like one of those, I don't know, simulators, or maybe just like a bunch of scenarios or something. But there is an actual campaign. with voice actors and everything. And they really went for it in this one. And I believe it was Kickstarted, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, you play a witch who is about to be burned at the stake. You get saved at the last minute by another witch who has already just burned at the stake right before you did. And she gives up her spirit to empower you. And so her spirit goes into your body, and then you both escape. And then you go off in search of, I don't know, you go to find help or just to escape the witch hunters and whatever. So there is a story, like you talk to people, there's NPCs, like it's a full-on campaign, right? But the hook of this game is it's pretty wild. So you time travel, or you create time clones of yourself. That's really the core of the experience. Now there's other stuff to it. And in fact, I almost think this game has almost too much to it, because it's also like a real-time strategy or a tower defense. But in addition to that, it's also a third-person time clone of yourself. So hang on to that other stuff for a second. The core of the game is that you've got a certain number of clones you can create for yourself. And so let's say, for example, you are faced with a horde of like 100 zombies coming at you. There's no way that you, one witch, can kill 100 zombies. You can take out a chunk of them, but you're not going to get all of them. And some of them are going to get through. They're going to attack you. You're just going to get overwhelmed, right? So so what you do is you do your best. The first time through, you see this horde of zombies coming, and you just do the best you can. Just kill as many as you can with your spells. Take them out. Like, you know, you'll take out maybe like, I don't know, a quarter or a third of them or whatever. So that's your first run. Then you hit a button and travel back in time to before the battle started. And then you will see what you just did, your first witch self, going and doing the exact thing that you just finished. But then you're in the body of the second witch, which is like your time clone, and you can just stay there. And then you can do something else. So what happens is you watch your first self go through and kill the zombies. Of course, a whole bunch get through. Then when you see what's left, you take control of your second witch, and then you go kill whatever's left. So then you kill a bunch, but there's still like some left over, right? So then you hit the time skip thing or time jump thing again, and then you go back in time to where you started again, and then you will see your first witch doing her thing, and then you'll see the second witch doing the thing that you just did a second ago, and then you can use your third witch to go and do cleanup on whatever zombies got through. So by deliberate use of this time mechanic, you can give yourself the help and backup that no one was around to give you on the first time through. So by the end of it, you've got like at least 3 or 4 clones of yourself running around doing everything all by yourself, but in different, that you had done this all in different time periods, right? So you've essentially got 4 time clones existing in the same place at the same time by the time you've gone through all of your options and used all that stuff. It's fucking wild and trippy, and it's really cool. I like that idea a lot. It's very touchy though, and there's other stuff to talk about, but I do think it's important to say that I think this feels like a very experimental title. It feels like a very wild idea, and I like this idea a lot. I think it's got tons of potential. I would love to see the same idea like polished up and pushed a little further, because there's lots of like weird little idiosyncrasies with it. And I think the thing that gets me the most is you have to be so careful with your clones. And I guess that makes sense thematically, right? Because in every single time travel movie, they're always like, don't tell yourself anything, and don't be seen by yourself, and don't do anything that's going to mess up the timeline. I mean, that's just the common fiction, right? In every single time travel movie, they're always like, don't mess yourself up, because then your mom and dad will never meet, you'll never be born, blah, 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 blah. You get it, right? Okay. So, but in this case, it's a little bit different. Think back to that horde of zombies. The first time that your first witch goes through, the original witch, when she goes through, there's no one else there. It's just one witch and 100 zombies. All the zombies are reacting to the one witch. They're swarming towards her. She's killing them. She's probably eventually going to get overrun or whatever, or she can't take the whole horde. So there's that. When you have your second witch, the difficulty and the touchiness of this whole thing is that now that there is a second witch, when you're on your second run, the zombies will also see the second witch. And so what the zombies did the first time will be different if you're not careful. So for example, and I struggle to describe this, but like the first time through, all the zombies will swarm towards the first witch because there's no one else there. And the second run, there is the first witch where she was, and now you have the second witch, and the zombies will be split. Some will go towards the first witch, and some will go towards the second witch. So if some of the zombies that you killed the first time through decide to change their behavior and go for the second witch, you won't kill them the first time, and it messes up what you did the first time. And so instead of killing a chunk of them, you may kill a lot less of them because your second witch got spotted. And then vice versa, not vice versa, but and so on for the third witch and the fourth witch, right? So the added complexity of this is like you want to maintain the integrity of what you did the first time, but you have to like act with witch 2 and 3 and 4 in such a way as to not disrupt the actions of what happened. You can't distract those zombies. You can't do something different that moves their focus away from where it originally was. Otherwise your whole plan gets fucked up. And then like you got to like redo the whole thing. It's really touchy. It's really sensitive. It's very easy to get your first run negated because you get too close to a zombie and it lures them away, or you just got spotted by somebody that didn't spot you the first time because you weren't there the first time, etc., etc. So it's really touchy, as I'm sure real time travel would be. And you end up doing a lot of like trial and error and repeat and wash, rinse, repeat and stuff to try to get it right. Now it's all interesting and engaging and fun, but it does, like, after a while, it does get a little bit mind bending and frustrating because sometimes you're like, fuck, how could you see me? Like I wasn't that far over. Just do the thing that you did the first time and let me just react to that. But sometimes these things change in real life, which I guess makes sense again, thematically. I want to be fair. So I think that it does make sense. The developer tries to tell you in graphic form when that thing goes wrong. There's a little timeline and it'll say like, oh, anomaly detected, which means that you fucked something up that screwed up what you did before. It's not that clear. I think that part needs some work because I usually just use my actual eyes to see what went wrong. And I don't think that the way that they tell you the anomalies pop up, it makes a lot of sense to me. I should go back and look at it again. But I remember when I tried, I was like, I don't understand what you're trying to tell me. I will instead just go figure this out myself. It is helpful because the developer will put these red X's over enemies that you kill the first time. So you know which zombies are eventually going to die from your previous run. So you know where to focus your efforts. That's a really good move. I like that a lot. And it's just an interesting, really fucking interesting formula. I think that in itself works really well. I do think the game falls down a little bit when it tries to get too complicated. And this feels like a little bit like the developer taking their shot. Like maybe they had a lot of ideas and maybe they weren't sure they're going to get a chance to make a second game. And so they put like everything in the game. And I feel like it's a little bit overkill. So the time travel thing in and of itself is like way more than enough to build an entire game on. But in addition to that, you can have your witch send her spirit out of her body and you kind of go like on a top down view and you can see like tower defense pass of the creatures that are coming in. And so you've got to like jump back and forth between these little areas. For example, you can set traps for people. Like you can bring trees to life and the trees will like smash some zombies. You can set up some other kind of traps and stuff. These little ghosts that'll shoot fireballs at stuff. And so you've got this whole other tower defense aspect to it where you're going out of your body, going into like top down mode, isometric mode, flying around, activating these traps and stuff. And that to me feels a little bit kludgy. It feels like a little bit too much on top of the basic concept of the time clones, which in and of itself is already enough to handle. So I feel like maybe they should have trimmed some of this stuff back or just maybe worked on it a little bit more. The whole thing feels very experimental, very rough. Like it's all just kind of holding together with a paper clip and some string and a prayer. But honestly, I kind of love it. I do kind of love it. I think it really recalls to me the wild and woolly days of the PS2 when people were swinging for the fences every single time, when nothing was off the table, when anything went, and you never knew what you were going to get. I mean, that was a really special time to be a gamer, and I miss it a lot. So I'm here for it. TimeMelters is really something else, brother. It is something else, and I think it's also really cool. And if you like experimental, weird games where just you don't even know what's happening and the formula is unproven and all sorts of elements are here and you're not quite sure how it all comes together, you're just doing your best to learn the whole system, and you like what you see, you're going to like this. I think TimeMelters is really cool. I don't know that I'm going to finish it. I think I'm going to try, but I'm definitely still kind of like learning the nuances to it. And I think it's just so fascinating. So definitely a thumbs up for if you're an experimental fan for sure. There's also a co-op mode, which I have not even experimented with. So I don't even know how that works. My brain is already like max capacity right now. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. But for what I've gotten so far, I think just the basic premise and everything about it is just really nifty and cool and really kind of punk rock, honestly. So thumbs up to TimeMelters. Okay, next I'm talking about Mudrunner Expeditions, which is not brand new, but it came out fairly recently. And I was kind of interested in this one because I just like, systems-oriented games. I know I just talked about that a little bit ago. talking about Bomber Crew. And something about this just really kind of piqued my interest. I know that SnowRunner was like really popular with some people that I play, and like Euro Truck Simulator and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, oh, maybe I would like one of these. I do like, futzing with dials and knobs and kind of like optimizing systems sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And sometimes it can hit and land. This is a very interesting one. Basically, you take a series of off-road vehicles, like really super rugged off-road vehicles, like Jeeps and trucks, like really heavy trucks. A lot of these vehicles I've actually never seen before in my entire life, and I'm sure that they are all like actual vehicles. And so you go to this land. You start off, I believe, in Arizona in the United States, and you are given a series of objectives to, get to point A and retrieve this thing, or drop off this equipment or whatever. But the whole point of it is that they're doing this like really hardcore simulation of the driving physics. So in Arizona, there's like mud and rocks and hills and slidey dirt that's loose and gullies and all sorts of things. And you've got to like navigate this whole area to get where you're going. So if you've played Death Stranding, which I love the mechanics of Death Stranding. The story is horseshit, but playing Death Stranding is fucking amazing. I love it. So the idea of Death Stranding, where you are looking constantly at the terrain, looking for the best path, using tools available to you to navigate like gaps or wet areas or whatever. This is basically like Death Stranding, the game, if Sam was a car or a truck, right? If Sam Bridges had 4 wheels. That's what Mudrunner Expeditions would be. So I'm sure some of you are sold already. I don't need to say any more, but let me say a little bit more. This is an incredibly specific and technical game. And so let me just say that I like it. I think it's really cool. I think it's really interesting. And a lot of the brain cells that were activating for me when I play Death Stranding are activating when I play Mudrunner Expeditions. Like looking at the rocks and the terrain, the slopes, what looks like solid ground, what is not solid ground, how deep is that water? Is my car going to get stuck if I go down this ledge, or is it not going to get stuck? All sorts of stuff. You've also, just like Sam Bridges, you do have a lot of equipment. The best thing, I think, is probably the winch. You have a winch attached to the front or back or sides of your car or truck. And if you're near a rocky outcrop or a tree, you can attach the winch to that and pull yourself up. But sometimes you're not near anything and you're just stuck anyway. So they give you this special magical video game item. I think it's called like a flat anchor or something like that, where you apparently like hammer it into the ground or something, and it becomes an anchor point for your car. So if you get stuck somewhere, use this flat anchor thing, and it pulls you out of the car. That's great. There are little foldable bridges you can use, all sorts of other stuff like that, like a jack in case your car flips over, you can flip it back. You're also being very mindful of your fuel consumption, using different gears on your car, or having different tire inflation ratios will affect your car. So if you're in a place and you don't have enough traction, you can let air out of your tires to give you more grip, because I guess squishy tires are grippier than firm tires. And you're also like, trying to do that whole thing. And so you're navigating constantly. Which gear am I in? How inflated are my tires? What's the ground I'm on? Do I have enough fuel to get to where I need to go? You're constantly like doing all this stuff in your head, which to me feels very much like Death Stranding. And I really like that a lot. I think it's very cool. I think the simulation on this thing is bananas. Like, I'm sitting in my chair holding my controller, and it fucking feels like I'm slipping in mud when I'm driving the car. I can see it. I can feel it. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting stuck. I can feel it. And then boom, I'm stuck. And I'm not using the force feedback or anything like that. Like, I'm not using the haptics, because I hate those. I don't like them personally. I'm just like looking at what's going on in the car and just like really immersing myself in it. And it fucking feels like I can feel all these things in my body when I'm playing it, which is amazing. Like, they've simulated this shit so well. Like, you watch your one axle going over a rock and you're like, oh, I'm going to hit. And then it's like, bam, hits. You're like, damn it, I knew that was going to happen. And so like you do some damage to your car, but like it all feels like you're just in this scenario, like as much as you could possibly be. I think it works really well. It's brilliant. The simulation is great. And I like the sense of adventure of like trying to get from just simply point A to point B. You're just being like a delivery person or a pickup person or something, exactly like in Death Stranding, but instead of having a young girl on your back or a corpse or carrying 15 silver suitcases, you've got like a generator, or you've got a radio equipment thing you need to set up or whatever. So that all really works well. I think that's great. You also have like a drone to search around. You have like a little home base thing and stuff. Whatever, it's fine. It's really cool. If what I've said so far sounds great, it is great. It works really well. I like it a lot. But I will say, this game is hard as fuck. HAF. Hard as fuck. And I think the thing that makes it harder is that the developers... My only real criticism of this game is that the developers fundamentally, wildly misunderstand how much information the player needs. I get that these people have probably been making these games for a while. I think they've made at least a couple before this, like SnowRunner. I think there's a Mudrunner that's not Expeditions, like a different Mudrunner. I know this is their cottage industry for themselves, right? And they're probably like neck deep in this work and they know it like the back of their hand, but not everybody does. And this game is crafted, from my understanding, to be kind of an entry point for people who may be interested in these automotive simulators, but have not taken the bait before. They haven't gotten in, right? And this is supposed to be more approachable, easier, or not. I don't know about easier, but like easier to understand, or just like a better place for newcomers to start, right? And I feel like the developers have just like, no disrespect, folks, but you have like fucked this whole thing all up, like hardcore. And it's not the game itself. I think the game works, but it's like, I don't have any information as someone who's never played these games before. And I feel woefully unprepared to even understand what's going on. Like, I think it's really hard to tell which car I should choose, because from the very beginning, you've got like 5 or 6 cars. I'm like, I don't know which one is the best one. I don't think the iconography they use, the UI is very clear. I don't think any of the systems are immediately apparent. I don't even understand what some of the systems are, where they talk about, for example, what you have like your gears, and then you also have the ability to do like all-wheel drive. So I understand that. I've had some experience with all-wheel drive. But then they also have like a differential lock, and I'm like, well, I don't know what that means. Does it mean that your car doesn't move? There is a joint in the middle of your car? Like, I don't know what that means exactly. And then there's this other button that I've got no fucking idea what it does, and they don't explain what the button does, and I have no idea what it means. And so I'm like, you guys, gals, trans people, whatever, you need to explain this stuff. Pretend like I don't know anything, because spoiler, I don't know anything. I like the way this game looks, and I've seen a trailer, and that's all I know, right? I'm not a car head. I'm not an off-road guy. I don't own like an off-road vehicle like this, but I've seen the trailer and I'm attracted to it, and it seems like something I might enjoy based on what I perceive it to be. They need to like really fucking just step all the way back, and they need to hire a couple people who are just randos off the street and be like, look, what part of this do you understand and what part of this do you not understand? Because I guarantee they are assuming too much knowledge on the part of the player. It's an easy mistake to make. I see developers make this mistake all the time. But this is a very particular experience where I don't think you can really fake your way through it. Like, I think you need to have a very fundamental understanding of the systems and what's expected of you. And I feel like they fail pretty hard on that. I failed the tutorial. I think the first 2 times I tried it, I just couldn't get through it. And it's the tutorial. You're supposed to be teaching me. I am a person who has come to your game, you know, wanting to partake in what you've created, and you've left me out in the cold on this one. So I don't think they're doing it intentionally. I'm not assuming any malice whatsoever here. I would be willing to bet almost any amount of money that the developers are simply too close to the material. They know it too well, and they haven't been able to look at it with fresh eyes. I see it happen all the fucking time, and they're making that mistake here. So they really need to step back and like reevaluate the tutorial. Another thing that they really fall down on is clarity of objectives. I think they are profoundly unclear with their objectives. There's all sorts of like icons on the map, and like, I'm not sure where to go or what my goal is. And I think I know where the goal is. And I get that they're trying to like be simulation, right? Like, oh, it's kind of realistic and stuff. And that's fine. I get that. But you should have an option where somebody like me, who doesn't know anything about this game, has never played one before, is not an off-road guy. I need like more hand-holding, right? I'm just no pride. I'm not like tearing up my gamer card or anything. I think I just need more hand-holding with this specific game. I bet a lot of other people do too, right? And so what I want is like, maybe there should be a mode. Are you like a starting from scratch, zero knowledge beginner? Check. Yes, that is me. Raising my hand. And what I want is like a big fucking arrow floating over the landscape. I don't care if it's not real. Show me exactly where I need to go. Because honestly, there's been multiple times when I thought I was going to the place I needed to go. It turns out it wasn't where I needed to go. And then I run out of fuel and I can't get back. And I fucked the whole mission sideways. And I spent an hour and a half trying to get up a fucking hill. And it wasn't even where I was supposed to go. And so I failed the mission because I had no clue what I was doing. And I don't think I'm a stupid person. I've played games before. I have played a game before, but I feel like the communication in this game is not good. They need to really be very crystal clear, specific about go here, do this thing. You're going to have to do these steps to get where you're going. Like, brother, help me out, man. Like, I am trying to love this game, and I think I kind of do love it, but you are pushing me away because I don't know what's going on, and I really need just the hand-holding. I am not too proud to ask, and so I need you to deliver. So that's really my only criticism of the game. I think that when things are going well, when you're in the right gear and you're tooling over the rocks and you make it to the top and you get to the cool vista, like, it feels fucking awesome. You get through the river and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm going to try. And you like slip in the mud a little bit. Then you use your winch and pull out the other side. You make it. You're like, yes, it feels amazing. Feels great. Love it. And it looks great. I like the concept. Like, I'm on board. I need them to show me more about what to do. Teach me about this game. Teach me about these systems. Teach me the logic and philosophy behind it. Take me literally by the hand and walk me through these steps, at least for the first couple missions, right? And I think in general, the clarity of communication could be a lot better. I think the communication is terrible in this game, which is unfortunate. There's a lot to like. So I wish there was more signposting, better UI, clearer UI, better communication, more clarity, transparency. I think that's really where this game falls down. So I beg of you, developers, I beg you, please go back and fix this. If you need help, hey man, I'll help you. Hire me. I'll work cheap. I will tell you where to fix this game, and I guarantee it'll be a better experience for people like me. I'm available. Email me. Contact information at the end of the show. So that's really my only complaint. Other than that, I think this is a really unique, fun, interesting, challenging experience. It's hard as fuck, but if you like systems, if you like Death Stranding, you like the idea of doing Death Stranding with a car and kind of like tooling around in a landscape and just like looking at the mechanics and systems of things, I think this really excels. It just needs better fucking tutorials, better communication, better UI. I just need more information as someone who doesn't know jack shit about this game, because I kind of feel like I'm being left out in the cold. So there you go. Mudrunner Expeditions. Make of that what you will. All right, moving on. Last brand new game of the show is Flintlock, Siege of Dawn. Now, this is another Game Pass game, so I got this from Game Pass. No code from the developer. Didn't need one, although they did offer. Thank you very much. And I want to give a special shout out to Andre Brock Jr., aka Thought Leader on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other name because it's stupid. But Andre Brock Jr., great guy, really smart, has written some books. He always has something insightful to say, and he reads my stuff. I don't know why. I feel like it's an honor that he's reading my stuff. I don't know what it is about it that attracts him, but I'm glad he's here. And this was kind of a special request. He asked what I thought of this game, and I had not covered it at that time. But I assured him that I would get to it this week, which I'm about to do right now. So, Andre, this is dedicated to you, my good friend, and I appreciate you reaching out to ask about this. Comments, questions, thoughts, feedback, anything is always appreciated. And here we go. Okay, so Flintlock, third person. Is it a Souls-like? I don't know. I feel like people are getting pretty loosey-goosey with Souls-like stuff. I think the label is being applied too liberally these days. I don't know that this is specifically a Souls-like, although I can see how people might think that. But I'm going to basically call it just a third-person action game with a couple of maybe like light Souls-like elements, mostly like corpse run and stuff like that. But you play a woman, and specifically a woman of color, and she is in some kind of a weird fantasy world where there's a big war going on. And it starts off with some pretty cool imagery, actually. There's a mountain kind of like off in the distance, not super far. You can see it, and there's this glowing triangle on the side of the mountain. And like hordes of the undead are pouring out of this triangle. I guess it's like a dimensional rift or something. And so this lady and her compatriots who are in like military garb are trying to like push these undead back and seal off the hole to protect their land. And it's just a pretty cool image and scene. It just feels like you're just in the thick of it from the get-go, and it's pretty easy to understand the stakes. You know, like you never want zombies regardless, and so having a horde of them pouring out of this thing, of course you got to seal up that little triangle portal thing. And so you just kind of get to it. Things happen. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but basically the plan goes wrong. They're not able to seal up the hole. XYZ happens. She gets separated from her crew, and she wakes up in like a cave. Now, before this game came out, there was lots of trailers for it, and it showed a lot of like aerial movement, combat, and stuff like that. Kind of flashy, a lot of traversal stuff. But the thing that stuck out to me, and not in a good way, was this lady has a fox, and not exactly a fox, like a weird kind of, I don't know, spirit fox or something. And from the trailers, I got to be honest, it looked cheesy to me. I'm like, that looks cheesy. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't look. I'm not generally a big fan of, I don't know, these chirpy kind of sidekick kind of things. But I will say, I take it all back. I'm eating crow right now, a mouthful of crow, because they really introduced it in a cool way in the game, and I think it really works. And I think that some of the context that I needed to fully appreciate what was happening was not in the trailer, but it is here in the game. And what happens is you wake up and you soon find out that this fox is not a fox at all, but it's like a god. And so it's appearing to you because it wants your help. There's other gods that were trapped on the other side of that dimensional portal that the zombies are coming through, and they're fucking everything up. And so this god wants to get back at them, and he wants to help you seal up the portal, and he wants to put things right. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like the old Greek mythology, where the gods were many and they were prevalent and they were always messing around with humanity, and they hated each other and they were petty and jealous. And they weren't just like almighty spirit wizard in the sky who was benevolent and wise. It was like, hey, we're these people who like are more powerful than you, and we're fucking everything up for you, and you got to deal with us, and we're a pain in the ass, and we're jealous and hot-headed and things like that, and lusty and all that. So it kind of feels like a similar situation here. Now, full disclosure, I didn't get too far in this game, only a couple hours. Another spoiler. I liked it. I thought it was really cool, but I was juggling too many games at the time, so I didn't have enough brain power and available time to like focus hardcore on this. As a matter of fact, I really love Dungeons of Hinterberg, and as soon as I'm done with Dungeons of Hinterberg, I'm gonna roll credits on that. I'm gonna pivot over to Flintlock. I think Flintlock is great. So you get the sense that this fox is here. He talks to you. It explains why he has powers. It explains why he can help you traverse. It explains why he's with you. And I'm like, okay, that is much cooler than just having like a Pokemon with you. So I like that a lot. That worked. And again, my bad for assuming the worst of the developers with this one. I fully admit that I just did not get the right vibe, and that's on me. So the fox thing is cool, and you get back into the world, and he helps you do these various things. He can help you in combat. He helps you traverse like down zip lines, or he'll teleport you across long distances. And when you're doing the combat yourself, you have a couple of different weapons, and you do third-person combat, which I think works pretty well. There's something interesting about this game, though. I think the controls are kind of floaty. You kind of glide along a little bit, and your strikes are kind of not as crisp and as tight as you might expect from like a hardcore Souls-like, which is fine. I think it's totally fine because I think it works in the concept of just a third-person action game. I don't think the Souls label needs to be applied to everything. I don't think you need to see everything through a Souls filter. So I'm totally fine with how it feels. And I think that the approach to traversal is also interesting because you have a gun, which you can use to do damage. I think you need to upgrade it along the way. It does very little damage at first, but it's good at parrying. So it kind of functions like the Bloodborne pistol in a way, where in Bloodborne it did like shit-ass damage, but it parried a lot of people. Same kind of thing here. So when someone's coming at you, when they do like an unblockable, you can shoot them, it'll stop their unblockable, and then you can go in for the kill. You can also parry, like regular parry, and I think it works pretty well. The window could be like a tiny bit bigger, but I'm not going to complain too much because it's way more generous than other parry windows I've played. So I think that's fine. And also you have some interesting jump options. In the beginning, you don't have anything, but once you get a little way into the story, the god fox that's with you takes some of the gunpowder from your gun, and he creates like these options for you to jump. And so you've got these gunpowder jumps is what they're called. You can dodge in combat with a gunpowder jump. You can also do a double jump, and then you can also do a dash jump, and you can chain those in any way you wish, but you can only do one of each. So you can jump, and you jump really far. It's kind of semi-floaty, but again, not a problem. You jump, and then you can do a double jump, and like this little explosion goes off, and you get catapulted further. And then if it's not quite enough, you can do like the dash, another explosion goes off, boom, and you get catapulted even further. So you can cross pretty sizable distances, in addition to like the fox giving you some teleportation powers at specific points. So it feels very, very airborne, very quick, very jumpy. It feels very much like an action game, not at all like a Souls-like, where you're basically married to the ground most of the time. I think also it's very vertical. In the areas that I were in, I was constantly like I was climbing up things. I was dropping down on guys from up above. There were hills to go up and kind of go over. It did not feel like a flat land. It felt very vertical. Hills, valleys, little trails, things to do like that. So overall, I think it's really interesting. I'm very much looking forward to digging into it. Like I said, I only played a couple hours, and so far what I liked was good. I was actually surprised a bit by the basic makeup of the game. You start off in one section, but then I don't know that I want to say it's open world, but it's like a semi-open world where you can pick and choose the different routes that you want to go on. And at some time you'll come across like a couple towns, and these towns are overrun with enemies. You can go inside the town. If you wish, you don't have to. You can just totally choose to do it. You usually get a reward or something, but like you go inside, clean out the town of enemies, fight the boss, and then that town becomes liberated, and then you can go back there later on and talk to the shopkeepers. Interestingly, the centerpiece of every town is a coffee shop, which I really appreciate. I'm a big coffee fan myself, and so to find out that a coffee shop is the heart of every town was kind of a nice little wink wink nudge nudge to me, which I appreciated. So you can liberate towns as you wish. You can travel back and forth between points on the map. You can explore it as you wish, within reason. And so you kind of just like tool around and kind of explore the world, meet new NPCs. They give you like little side quests you can do. It's a cool approach. Actiony, vertical. You've got your fox cool sidekick, who was later revealed to be cool. I initially didn't think they were cool, but they are cool. And it just has a good vibe to it. I like the main character a lot. I think she's really cool. And I have not experimented very much with changing her appearance. There's a lot of Fashion Souls element here where it seems to be the main thing that you buy with your money is just like outfits, which kind of caught me by surprise. I don't think they have any effects in combat. I haven't seen anything yet where it's like gives you like a plus attack or plus defense, or maybe it does. Maybe I haven't seen it yet, but it seems to be purely cosmetic so far. So if you like mixing and matching outfits, which I do, you can do that. There's lots of clothes to choose from, but she seems really cool. The fox is cool. I like the verticality of it. I like the jumpiness of it. I like the ability to kind of just go through this world and kind of take on quests as I wish. And like I said, I didn't play it for too long because my plate was pretty full, but I definitely wanted to get to it. Not only because Andre asked for it, but because it's also on Game Pass right now. And Game Pass is going through just a killer period at the moment where they like drop like 3 or 4 games. It was like Flintlock. It was like Dungeons of Hinterberg. There was Kunitsugami from Capcom, which I covered last week. I think I covered the demo. I didn't care for the demo, but I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that with the full version. I think I might get more out of it with the full version. But my Game Pass is dropping like a shit ton of really great stuff right now. So I felt like the need to really kind of get to it sooner rather than later. And like I said, I'll come back to this one. I liked it a lot. I think it's a cool action game, and it's not following lockstep in with the soul stuff, which is totally fine with me. And I think, of course, it's great to get another game with a woman of color in the lead. So that's amazing as well. So, I mean, it looks like win. The whole thing looks like a win. I have no complaints. I just need some more time with it, which I will circle back on a later episode of the show. So Andre, thank you very much for requesting this. I appreciate that. Hopefully I covered it to your satisfaction. If you need any more information or questions, please hit me up on Twitter as per usual. And this is going to do it for the main portion of the show. Now, before I bounce, right before I wrapped up recording here, I did get a question from Zibby over in the Gaming in the Wild Discord. Gaming in the Wild, probably one of my favorite podcasts going right now, run by John over in Reykjavik. I recommend it basically every show. His Discord is a great place to hang out. Lots of awesome people, lots of good conversations happening. And Zibby from the Gaming in the Wild Discord did shoot me a question. And his question says, I'm still on my Dungeons of Hinterberg kick, so I'm thinking about mixed genre games. Are there any that stand out to you as particularly good combinations or genres you'd like to see mashed up? Okay, great question. Thank you very much, Zibby. I really appreciate that. And in case you don't know, Dungeons of Hinterberg basically marries Persona-like social links aspects and leveling up with third-person action dungeon crawling. So that's kind of like the marriage happening in Dungeons of Hinterberg. And I do have an answer. So just off the top of my head, as you kind of may have picked up on recently, I like systems-oriented games. I like Death Stranding, Mudrunner Expeditions. So I would be super interested in like Death Stranding plus anything basically. And in fact, the thing that really came up to me was perhaps taking like a Death Stranding systems-oriented game, backpack, you're carrying stuff, not crafting so much, because I think crafting is like really overdone these days. I don't really get a lot of joy out of just crafting where you got to like grind for materials and all that stuff. No. But like specifically delivering. If you were like a delivery person in an RPG game, maybe you would have to get through some really treacherous territory, like a swamp filled with dragons, or like maybe you got to get through a rocky area filled with trolls or something, or maybe there's just like a really desolate patch that's dangerous for like whatever reason, smog or something. Who knows what? Necromancers, anything. If you were delivering like a sword to a hero that was like 2 towns over, and you had to bring that sword to him on your back, and along the way you had to do like climb mountains and get through forests and swim rivers and stuff like that. That seems to me like that'd be pretty fucking cool. I would definitely be up for that. So that's like one idea off the top of my head. I'm also a really big fan of turn-based tactics. So I think turn-based tactics plus anything. And the first thing that leaped to mind was cooking. It would be fucking cool, I think. And again, if anybody likes these ideas, if you're a developer listening, like, take these ideas, man. I guarantee I will not sue you. Have at these ideas. Make these games. Give me credit if you wish, or don't. Whatever. Just take these ideas, make them happen. I don't care. So, like, turn-based tactics plus cooking. If you were in a kitchen and you had to, like, ration your time. Okay, I've got something in the toaster. That's going to be ready in 3 clicks. In the same time, I've got to get some eggs going. So it's going to take me 1 click to get to the stove and then 1 click to crack the eggs. But then do I need to head back to the toaster? Or like, you know, like I got to get to the fridge and then it's going to take me some time to get to the fridge. I don't know. Something along that line of like, you know, like a time-oriented, systems-oriented cooking where you're not just doing like the QTEs of like Cooking Mama or something like that. And definitely not something like Order Up where you're running around with 3 friends in some kind of chaotic couch environment. No, like something where you were being very strategic about the actual cooking process that kind of simulated how much work goes into things. Because I cook in real life. I'm a pretty good cook. I'm not a chef or anything, but I'm a pretty good cook. And so I know about chopping vegetables and sauteing things and getting things ready and mixing the sauce beforehand and getting the grill hot and all that stuff. I think that would be pretty fucking badass. I would love to do like that kind of a turn-based kind of cooking thing that brought an element to it that we haven't seen before. That would be wonderful. I would also like to see, last one here, visual novels plus some kind of action, thinking probably a fighting game. Now think about it. In Street Fighter and stuff, we all know what Street Fighter is. If you're listening to this podcast, I guarantee you know what Street Fighter is. And that 2D fighting game, which is really cool. I'm a fan. I'm not really the best at them, but I enjoy them sometimes. If in those story interludes, like, you know, you beat up Ken and in the interlude, you see him with a bloody eye and he's like, oh, you beat me. Good for you or whatever, right? Like usually it's like 30 seconds of chat or something. And then you move on to the next fighting stage. What if that was a whole visual novel section after the fight? Ken and Ryu, they talk about, oh, that was a good match and all this stuff. And, oh, you really did this thing and you bring honor to our master and et cetera, et cetera. And the choices that you make in that dialogue, what if those dictate what techniques you have? Because of the conversation you had, you might learn a new kick or you might learn a new punch. You might go on to fight a different opponent because of something your person said. The choices you make and the kind of character that you roleplay in the visual novel sections will lead your fighting character to develop differently. And then you take those skills to like each fight after that, and each one goes on a different branch. So maybe like if you're playing an evil character, maybe you will go up against most of the good characters and you'll learn like, you know, nasty techniques or dirty fighting or something like that. But if you play the opposite side, you're going to fight like the bad guys. You'll learn like, you know, I don't know, more virtuous techniques, whatever that is. I mean, I don't know how that applies to fighting. I'm just off the top of my head here, but I could easily see a track where you could end up with like several different variations of a fighter or completely different fighting styles altogether based on who you liked, who you spent time with, what you talked about, like what personality you had. I think that'd be pretty fucking dope, dude. And then you got to like actually do the fights and stuff. And so you make bad choices. Maybe your fighter's weak. You have a rough time, or you make good choices. You get a really strong fighter. You breeze through the fighting. Who knows? I think those are great ideas. I mean, they're my ideas. So of course I think they're great, but maybe somebody else thinks those are great ideas too. And again, if you're a developer, steal these ideas, just take them free. Birthday gift from me. Happy birthday. Take them, whatever you want. Okay. I was just about to wrap, and then I noticed right before I bounced that Dovetail, also from the Gaming the Wild forums, had a couple questions for me as well. Dovetail says, what does it say? It says, would be good if you think Game Pass will be worth it after the price hike and the future of game subscription services. Like, are day one releases the most important part of subscription services? What do you think of Sony's offering? Okay, good questions. I know that I talked about, I think it was last episode, about the price hike happening with Game Pass. So I think even Microsoft itself is a little bit fuzzy on what the new offerings are going to be. I know they're going through an FTC, Federal Trade Commission thing right now. There's some lawsuit going on. I'm not sure if that's in Europe or if it's here, but basically because they changed the stuff with Game Pass, it kind of fucked up their previous lawsuit. And I think it hurt them a little bit. So they're kind of like relitigating some of that stuff. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I do know that's happening right now. So as far as Game Pass itself, I like Game Pass a lot. My house is an Xbox house. Everybody in my family has an Xbox and we play together all the time. And so we all have Game Pass. I like Game Pass in general. Do I think it's going to be worth it after the price hike? I believe it goes up $5 if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the numbers right in front of me and I'm not going to look them up because I'm lazy. But I believe it went up $5. And to be honest, we were already at the, I don't know, whatever the max thing is. Like we were getting the all-in-one package because I mean, you know, my wife and my son, they don't really like buy games anymore. Like they play Game Pass almost exclusively. Every once in a great while, they'll buy something if they're really on fire. And usually if it's like a Monster Hunter or, like a Helldivers type thing where we're all going to play together and we all need a copy of it. If it's not on Game Pass, like we'll buy that, right? But for them, they play games a lot less than I do. Although they are, they're legit gamers. They're not like casual gamers. They're hardcore gamers, but they are usually pretty satisfied by Game Pass. And so I feel like that investment of $15 or $20 a month for whatever for them is totally worth it, because it basically satisfies all their needs. There's always something on there that my son can play. There's always something on there my wife is interested in. I'm always recommending stuff to them, and it just works out really well. So when you consider that like a game is worth 60 or $70 brand new, and I would have to buy like one for each of them, and they're not satisfied playing just one game a month. I mean, they rotate through stuff just like I do. It's way better of a value for us, for our specific situation, to do the max level of Game Pass. It's hella cheaper. Like for them too, my son and my wife, to get maximum Game Pass, it's less than the cost of even one game. So that totally works out for us. Are the day ones important? Like, is that the most important part? Well, I don't think it's the most important part. Although I will say I really, really like it a lot. I think it's fucking awesome that you can play a lot of day one games. Like, for example, like I just talked about, like we just talked about Dungeons of Hinterberg, talked about Flintlock. We talked about, what's the other one? The one from Capcom, I forget. Like whatever, like 4 brand new games dropped on Game Pass just like in the last week or two. And, I don't know that I would have bought them, but I super appreciate being able to play them on day one. I think that's awesome. I think that's a great value to Game Pass. I do not think we're going to be downgrading to just the back catalog. I think we will probably maintain the higher level because it's dollars for value, a good value for us. I guess, I can't decide for anybody. I mean, money means different things to different people. For some people, $20 is nothing. For some people, $20 is like a lot of money. And, respect to both people. I'm not making a judgment here. But if it's not worth it to you as a person, and not you specifically, Dovetail, I mean, just like to anybody, that's for you to decide. Like, are you the kind of player that really wants the newest stuff on day one? And if so, you're probably going to want to keep the higher tier. If you're a person who can just find like any game from any time and sink into it for months at a time, probably not worth it to keep the brand new highest tier. Go to the lowest tier and get the back catalog of games. So it's really a specific and individual question. For us, definitely worth it. For now, I don't know that I'm going to put up with too many more price hikes. It feels like still a good deal now, but if it keeps going up and up and up, we may have to reevaluate. Okay. So I'm not gonna say that I'm a customer for life here. As it goes to Sony's offering, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even know what they're offering right now. I'm on the basic, whatever the most basic thing is that you get online with, because I play Helldivers with my wife. And so whatever you need to get PSN online, that's what I have. The basic, I think it's like $10 a month or maybe 15 or something. I honestly don't pay attention to anything else. Every once in a while, I'll get a message on the dashboard saying, "Hey, download your free games." And I go, "Oh, I forgot I was even getting free games," because the free games you get from PSN have in the last couple of years traditionally been really unimpressive. Really, it's too old, uninteresting, not a good selection. And so I just kind of forgot that I even get free games. I don't even bother half the time to even download them or add them to my library. So that part is not really great value. I am not aware of them dropping any day one games recently. But to be frank, I haven't kept up with it because Xbox has been where we've been at. And between having Game Pass and all the games that I get as an editor, I don't really have a lot of need to have multiple subscription services, or I don't really need to count on more than one subscription service to get my needs met. So honestly, I can't even say what PlayStation has, although I do remember it being pretty confusing. Back when Carlos was still on the show, I know he was more of a PlayStation guy than I am. And he would often talk about like the stuff that he was getting from the back catalog on the PSN catalog. But even he was confused about what the different tiers were, like 3 different tiers. And you could only get the really old PS1 games in the highest tier, but then which games did you get in the middle tier? And we didn't know, and we could never figure it out. And you'd think that 2 people like us who spend our whole lives in games would parse this out. And it just felt like too much bother and not really important enough for us to figure out. So I honestly can't say, so I'm sorry. I'll have to disappoint you on that one. And as far as the Game Pass goes, I guess the answer is it depends. So there you go. Hopefully that was of some value to you, Dovetail. And again, thanks for being a cool person. Thanks for being a person who sends in a question. Also, thank you to Zibby. Also, thank you to Andre Brock Jr. And thank you to everybody else in the past who has sent in questions as well. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for a show. Let me just recap really quickly. On this episode, I covered Dungeons of Hinterberg, Bomber Crew, Deathbound, the demo, Arranger, TimeMelters, Mudrunner Expeditions, and Flintlock Siege of Dawn. That's what we covered this episode. A pretty good batch, if I do say so myself. Now, the game portion of the show is officially done, but I do have a couple non-game things to talk about this week. It's usually movies and TV, and that is no different here. If you listen to the show, you know that I'm a huge He-Man and the Masters of the Universe fan. I even talked about it at the beginning in the housekeeping section. We were scrolling through YouTube. My son is a big YouTube fan, much bigger YouTuber than I am. And he's like, oh, Dad, look what I found for you. There was a fan film called The Fall of Grayskull, and it was on YouTube, the entire film. It was like 36 minutes altogether. And I was like, I've never heard of this ever. And so we decided to watch it. And I don't know anything about the people who made it, but it was clearly like a labor of love from people who were, true fans. And they got together, wrote an all new script about Skeletor capturing He-Man, Teela and Shadow Weaver coming to rescue him. Triclops was there. They also had Evil Lyn. And then there was one surprise. Oh, the Sorceress was there as well. And then there's one surprise character who I'm not going to mention, who I was like blown away, made an appearance. I never in a cajillion years expected it. But it was very surprising and very welcome. But basically, excuse me. It was okay. So like at first I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. The acting is terrible. The costumes are terrible. This is terrible. But we kept watching it. And I got to be honest, the further it went on, like the better it got. Because, side note, like, I'm 48 now. And in the past, when I was younger, I made movies. Like, we had a little handheld camcorder. And I would go hang out with my friends in the neighborhood. We would make funny movies or, kung fu movies or action movies or whatever. And it would just be dumb and whatever. And trying to do editing on that basic stuff back then was like a nightmare. Especially when you were working with like VHS type tape. It was so hard. And just even like writing a script and plotting action and getting shots is very difficult. Like you see people do it all the time on YouTube and social media. You think it's no big deal, but when you try to do it yourself, it's actually a lot of work. And so as we were watching The Fall of Grayskull, yeah, the sets were, kind of cheesy and the costumes kind of cheesy and everything. But honestly, I'm like, this is pretty good. Like I'm looking at this thinking, if I was to try to do this myself, it would be so much fucking work. Like even just the costumes, the caliber of costumes they had, like if I was to put those together, if I was to do the CG that they had in this movie, to do the backgrounds and the special effects, it would take me so long. It would be so much effort, right? Like it would take me forever to do it. So I had huge respect for the scope of what they were going for, especially like a 36-minute indie movie. That's a lot of time and filming and editing. And it like every 1 minute film is like an hour or 2 hours of prep beforehand, maybe even more than that. And so it was pretty incredible to see the lengths that they had gone to. And the further it went on, honestly, like the better I thought it got. Once you kind of got past the cheesiness of it, and I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. I mean, it's just, clearly it was like a fan-made project. Like it was okay. Like some of the dialogue was okay. They fucking paid Alan Oppenheimer, the actual voice of Skeletor, to do one sentence of voiceover in the beginning of the movie. I heard his voice and I was like, oh my God, what's he doing here? What's going on? So half their budget must have gone to Alan Oppenheimer doing that one sentence, but like it was worth it, right? Like it was legit. They scripted out the Skeletor costume was pretty damn good. I thought like it was pretty convincing. Triclops, a little bit on the skinny side, not too bad, but he did some martial arts move. That was nice. And He-Man, okay, like it's always going to be hard to cast He-Man, right? He's really iconic. He's got a very well-defined face, very well-defined look to him. There's been a couple iterations, but everybody basically knows what He-Man looks like if you're even remotely a fan. And the guy that they got, I don't know who they got. He was like some slab of beefcake guy. And he had like the worst blonde wig on. It was really painful to watch. He couldn't act and his wig was awful. So clearly they picked him because he had like the physique, right? Which I get. That's fine. But honestly, I think I would have been okay with maybe somebody who was slightly less buff, who could act a little bit better, or who had like actual blonde hair or something, or just dyed hair, or just a better wig or whatever. Because, oof, like He-Man was like the worst part of it. Like it was really painful to watch He-Man. But the rest of it, pretty damn good. And I will say I was honestly surprised at how brutal it was, because I'm not going to spoil anything, but like I think at least 2 people got like legit killed in this movie, and I was like, what is going on? How can you possibly kill somebody in this movie? Like, nobody ever dies in the cartoon for real. And so it was like a real shock. They got kind of bloody, actually. There was one sequence which I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this. It happened a couple times. So clearly this person who was a He-Man fan got sick of He-Man never killing anybody, and wanted to rectify that. So I guess kudos to that for making that bold step. Overall, like honestly, like when all was said and done, I think it actually ended up being pretty cool. I mean, definitely a fan project. Take it for what it is. But it must have been so much fucking work to do. And the guy or whoever was involved in it, I think his name, I think it was like a guy, one guy behind it all. He put up pictures of himself in He-Man costumes as a kid during the end credits. So you can see that he was like an OG fan from the beginning, which I respect. So pretty cool. It's going to cost you nothing if you want to check it out on YouTube. 36 minutes. If you like He-Man the way I like He-Man, it's definitely worth a look. Just get past the first few minutes. Your first instinct is going to be gross and you want to turn it off, but just hang in there for a little bit and it does get better as you go. So Fall of Grayskull was pretty wild. Also, watched Furiosa from George Miller, the man behind Mad Max. We just rented that a couple nights ago. We just watched Fury Road maybe a couple weeks ago for my son's first time. I seen it in the theaters. But we watched Furiosa to follow up on that. And it was okay. Just as a reminder, Furiosa was the female character played by Charlize Theron in Fury Road, who was basically the star of the movie. I mean, even though it was like a quote-unquote Mad Max movie, I forget the name of the meathead who played Mad Max, but I don't think he did a very good job, and I didn't like him very much in Fury Road. Furiosa was certainly the key role in that movie. And so in Furiosa, the film, they go into her backstory. So I guess full disclosure, I thought she was pretty cool in Fury Road, but it's not like I was jonesing to like find out her backstory or whatever. Like I was like, okay, I just accept you for who you are and move on, and that's fine. And I wasn't really dying to know more. So it was weird to me that I guess a whole entire movie got made about that. I mean, maybe other people were more curious than I was. I mean, that's fine, whatever. So we get like her whole backstory from when she's a kid growing up, and the movie's divided in chapters, which I don't think George Miller has ever done before, or at least not in the films of his that I've seen. So it starts out with like chapter 1, the early years, and chapter 2, teenagerhood, and chapter 3, the first job, and whatever. They weren't called that, but that's kind of like basically like how they were broken down. And so it jumped ahead in all these periods of her life. And I mean, it was okay. It was fine. I think there were a couple pretty glaring plot holes that I and my wife were kind of stuck on. We don't need to get into it here, but if you watch the movie, there was a couple pretty big moments where I'm like, why is nobody freaking out about this? Or how did this get let go? Why did nobody raise a stink about XYZ? And so you had to kind of not think about it too hard. I'm not sure why this one, more than others, seemed to have bigger plot holes in it than most. And also the biggest weird thing was that George Miller is famous for doing like live shots, right? Like when he did Mad Max, when he did Fury Road, like almost all of it was like real cars in a real desert doing real stunts. I mean, probably dangerous as fuck, right? But still he was doing it, and that's like one of the things he was known for. And almost right off the bat, we like noticed like a lot of CG going on in Furiosa, and we're like, ooh, weird. Like, and even there were some shots that like we felt like didn't need to be CG. Like there's one part where a girl's like riding a horse, and it's like, people can ride a horse pretty easily in real life. Why does this have to be a CG shot? It's really strange. I can understand like certain backgrounds. I mean, you can't build some of these wild like post-apocalyptic sets. I mean, they just don't exist in real life, so I get it. But like some of the other shots, we were just kind of taken aback by how much more CG was in it. And that's not, I don't know. I mean, whatever. The guy's getting older. Maybe he didn't want to put people at risk or whatever. I mean, there's probably reasons for it. Maybe it's cheaper. I don't know. But it just was kind of jarring compared to his previous films. So, I mean, take that for what it is. But overall, it was okay. Like I said, the other weird thing was like Chris Hemsworth was cast as the main bad guy in the film. And it was just strange. I think of him as Thor, and I know he's done other roles and stuff. But all I could see in this movie was Thor with a big nose, big rubber nose. And his acting was like, I mean, he was clearly doing a bit. He was acting in a specific way, but it didn't really work for me that well. I didn't really feel that much about him. I didn't really hate him. I didn't really like him. He kind of was just like there, I guess. And so that part didn't specifically work for me. I mean, it was all right. I don't think it was my favorite of the film series, the Mad Max series. Whatever. It was okay. I mean, the other thing to note is it was like 2.5 hours long, which I did feel like was too long. I didn't realize it was that long when we rented it. And then when I saw the time counter, I was like, oh, fuck. I wasn't planning on being here for like that long a time. It does feel a little bit bloated. It does feel a little bit excessive. Some of that stuff could have been cut out, I think. But, whatever. I mean, George Miller's a great director. Mad Max is a great series. Getting one more movie, I can't be mad about that. But, yeah, it's all right. It was all right. I heard a lot of people saying it was better than Fury Road, and I don't know that I agree with that. So there you go. Furiosa. All right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music kicks in, I would love for you to leave a review, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend So Video Games to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And If you want to support the show and help with the cost of running this podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. Even $1 will be greatly appreciated. And if you want to join our Discord, that is free of charge, just let me know. And as always, I would love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up, sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and in the So Video Games Discord, and usually in the Gaming in the Wild Discord as well. But any of the social media handles, it's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. And this is going to do it for episode 399. Only one more until 400. So thank you again for joining me all this time. Thank you again for joining me here today. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I am so grateful and so appreciative that you've been on this journey with me. And I'll see you next week.